Did you know that in 1992, a local farmer in China made a discovery that continues to puzzle researchers today? While draining what appeared to be a simple pond, something unexpected was revealed beneath the surface. Instead of natural rock formations, enormous underground chambers began to appear. Massive carved spaces hidden beneath the earth for centuries. These structures are now known as the Longyou Caves. More than 20 large caverns have been discovered so far, each one carved deep into solid rock, each one showing remarkable consistency in shape and structure. The walls of these chambers contain thousands of parallel chisel marks, carefully carved, perfectly repeated, almost as if the caves were constructed using a systematic method. The scale of the construction is difficult to ignore. Some chambers reach heights of over 30 meters. Supporting pillars appear deliberately placed. The interior walls are angled with unusual precision. What makes the discovery even more intriguing is the absence of historical records. No documents describe the construction. No texts explain their purpose. No clear evidence identifies who built them or why. The Longyou Caves remain one of the most unusual underground structures ever discovered, and even today, their origin continues to raise questions. For generations, local residents believed the ponds in this region were unusually deep. Some were considered bottomless. Stories suggested that no one had ever seen their true depth. In 1992, a local farmer decided to drain one of these ponds. He was not searching for ancient structures. He was simply curious. Using basic pumping equipment, he began removing the water. Slowly, the water level dropped. As the surface receded, the muddy ground beneath began to appear. At first, nothing seemed unusual, but as more water was removed, a dark opening became visible beneath the surface. What appeared at first glance to be a natural formation soon revealed something unexpected. Instead of irregular rock, straight surfaces began to emerge, angles that did not appear random, patterns that did not appear natural. As the water continued to drain, a large underground space began to take shape, an enormous chamber carved directly into solid rock. The interior surfaces showed clear signs of deliberate construction: flat planes, sharp transitions, structured geometry. The discovery immediately raised questions. If this was a natural cave, why did the walls appear so uniform? Why did the surfaces show repeating patterns? Why did the structure appear planned? Encouraged by the discovery, additional ponds in the region were drained. Each new attempt revealed another underground chamber. One after another, large caverns began to emerge beneath the earth. Researchers eventually confirmed the presence of more than 20 separate caves, each one carved with remarkable consistency, each one showing signs of intentional design. The scale of the discovery was difficult to ignore. These were not small cavities. These were massive underground spaces, hidden for centuries, completely unknown to modern history. The Longyou Caves had remained concealed beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. As researchers began to explore the Longyou Caves more closely, the true scale of the structures became increasingly apparent. These were not small chambers created by erosion or natural geological processes. These were vast underground spaces carved deliberately into solid rock. Some of the caverns extend more than 30 meters in height. The ceilings rise far above the cave floor, creating an interior volume comparable to large architectural halls. The walls are not rough or irregular. Instead, they appear carefully shaped. Large surfaces display a noticeable degree of consistency. Angles between walls and ceilings appear intentional. Many sections of the caves show geometric alignment. Flat planes intersect in ways that suggest planning rather than randomness. The interior spaces feel structured, organized, almost architectural in nature. Massive stone pillars appear throughout the chambers. These pillars seem positioned deliberately, possibly to support the enormous weight of the rock above. The spacing between pillars appears consistent in several caverns. This suggests that structural stability may have been carefully considered during construction. The walls of the caves contain thousands of parallel chisel marks. These marks cover large areas of stone surface. Each line follows a similar direction. Each cut appears deliberate. Each section shows a remarkable level of repetition. The pattern does not appear chaotic. Instead, the markings suggest a systematic process, a method repeated many times across multiple chambers. Some researchers estimate that removing such large volumes of rock would have required an enormous amount of labor. The total volume of excavated stone across the caves is significant. Thousands of cubic meters of solid rock appear to have been removed, and yet there is no clear evidence describing how the removed material was transported away. No large deposits of excavated rock have been conclusively identified nearby. This absence raises additional questions. Because large construction projects typically leave traces, tools, debris, records, or cultural references, yet the Longyou Caves appear in historical silence. No detailed written descriptions from ancient sources clearly reference these structures. No widely accepted explanation fully describes their construction process. The scale of the caves continues to surprise researchers. Their size, their consistency, their structural appearance all suggest deliberate effort, careful planning, and a level of organization capable of coordinating significant labor. Even today, visitors entering these caverns often describe a similar reaction, a sense that the spaces feel engineered rather than natural, as if the environment itself reflects intentional design. The Longyou Caves remain one of the most visually striking underground discoveries ever found, and their scale continues to challenge assumptions about what ancient builders were capable of achieving. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Longyou Caves is the surface texture of the stone walls. Across large sections of the caverns, thousands of parallel chisel marks can be observed. These markings are not randomly distributed. Instead, they follow a consistent directional pattern. Each groove appears deliberate. Each line appears intentional. The marks cover vast portions of the interior surfaces, from floor to ceiling, across walls, along angled structural elements. The repetition of these patterns suggests a controlled and methodical process. The grooves appear evenly spaced. Their depth remains relatively consistent. Their orientation remains uniform across large areas. Such repetition implies systematic effort, rather than irregular shaping. Researchers have noted that the markings resemble the result of repeated manual carving, possibly using simple tools applied with precision over extended periods of time. The consistency of the patterns suggests that the builders followed a defined technique, one that could be repeated reliably, again and again, over large surfaces. Some sections of the caves display intersections where carved planes meet. These transitions appear clean, carefully executed. The geometry appears intentional rather than accidental. Sharp edges between surfaces suggest controlled removal of material. Certain areas appear smoothed beyond what might be expected from rough excavation alone. This level of finish suggests attention not only to excavation, but also to refinement. Some researchers believe that the patterns may reflect a practical construction method. Repeated chisel strikes could gradually remove material, allowing builders to maintain control over the shape of the space. The visual consistency across multiple caverns suggests that similar techniques were applied repeatedly. This implies shared knowledge, possibly standardized working methods, possibly coordinated teams. The presence of repeated tool marks also provides valuable clues for modern researchers, because such markings can help reconstruct the sequence of construction. They may reveal the direction of carving, the order of material removal, and the level of planning involved. The remarkable consistency of the carved surfaces suggests that the construction of the Longyou Caves was not random. It was structured, it was deliberate, and it required patience, skill, and persistence. Even today, the patterns visible on the walls continue to provide insight into the techniques used by the original builders, and each detail contributes to a better understanding of how such enormous underground spaces may have been created. One of the most compelling questions surrounding the Longyou Caves concerns the methods used to create such enormous underground structures. Carving large spaces into solid rock is a demanding task even with modern tools. The Longyou Caves were not formed by natural erosion. They were created intentionally. Large volumes of stone were carefully removed to form interior spaces of significant size. Researchers estimate that thousands of cubic meters of solid rock would have needed to be excavated. Such an effort would require time, coordination and sustained labor. Traditional tools available in ancient times included chisels, hammerstones, and abrasive materials. Repeated manual effort can gradually shape stone surfaces. Even extremely hard rock can be modified using consistent technique applied over long periods of time. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that stone can be cut, shaped, and refined using relatively simple tools. However, the scale of the Longyou Caves suggests that the work would have required organization beyond individual effort. Large, coordinated groups may have been involved, possibly teams working simultaneously across different sections. The consistency of the carved patterns suggests that the builders followed shared methods, common techniques, common objectives. Construction on this scale implies planning. Planning implies structure. Structure implies knowledge passed between individuals or generations. Another question concerns the removal of the excavated material. Thousands of cubic meters of stone would have been produced during the carving process. Transporting this material away from the caves would require additional labor and additional coordination. Yet clear evidence of large disposal sites has not been definitively identified nearby. This absence of obvious debris continues to raise questions. Researchers continue to study the caves in order to better understand the sequence of construction. Tool marks provide clues. Structural alignment provides insight. Geometric consistency suggests intention. While no single explanation answers every question, ongoing research continues to improve our understanding. What remains clear is that the creation of the Longyou Caves required significant effort, careful planning, and considerable skill. The builders who created these spaces possessed knowledge that allowed them to shape solid rock into organized architectural environments. And even today, the process behind their construction continues to inspire investigation. One of the most puzzling aspects of the Longyou Caves is the lack of clear historical documentation describing their construction. Large architectural projects typically leave traces in written history. Ancient civilizations often recorded significant achievements. Important structures were documented. Major construction efforts were remembered. But in the case of the Longyou Caves, references appear limited. Historical texts describing the region do exist. Ancient Chinese scholars documented geography, agriculture, astronomy, and engineering practices. Records describe cities, canals, temples, defensive structures. Yet the Longyou Caves are rarely mentioned in detail. This absence raises questions, because constructing such enormous underground chambers would likely have required considerable effort. Large coordinated labor forces, planning, resources, organization. Projects of this scale are rarely invisible to history. Even when structures deteriorate over time, cultural memory often preserves some reference, stories, descriptions, legends, or symbolic meaning. In some cases, written records may have been lost. Historical documents can disappear due to war, natural disasters, political change, or simple passage of time. Materials used for writing in ancient periods were often fragile. Paper decays, wood deteriorates, ink fades. Entire archives have been destroyed throughout history. It is also possible that the original purpose of the caves was not widely publicized. Some structures may have served specialized or restricted functions. Certain projects may have been known only to limited groups. Another possibility is that references to the caves exist, but have not yet been clearly connected to the structures we see today. Ancient descriptions can sometimes be vague. Names of locations may change. Interpretations may evolve. Archaeological understanding often develops gradually as new evidence becomes available. Researchers continue to examine historical sources in search of potential connections. Each discovery adds context. Each fragment of information helps refine interpretation. The absence of widely recognized documentation does not necessarily imply impossibility, but it does increase the mystery. Because the Longyou Caves appear to exist almost quietly within history, visible yet rarely described, known yet still not fully explained. And this silence continues to inspire further investigation. The Longyou Caves remain one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries of modern times. Their vast scale, their precise surfaces, their carefully shaped interiors all suggest deliberate effort. Yet, many questions remain unanswered. Who designed these structures? What tools were used to shape the stone? How was such a large volume of material removed? And why were these enormous spaces created underground? Mainstream archaeological research continues to investigate these questions carefully. Many researchers emphasize that ancient civilizations were capable of extraordinary achievements. Human ingenuity has always existed. Innovation is not limited to modern technology. Throughout history, societies have developed sophisticated solutions using the tools available to them. Knowledge can be accumulated gradually. Techniques can improve over generations. Skills can be refined through experience. It is possible that methods once widely understood have simply been forgotten. History contains many examples of technologies that disappeared and were rediscovered centuries later. The Longyou Caves remind us that the past is often more complex than we assume. Ancient builders may have possessed practical knowledge that does not always survive in written form. Archaeological interpretation continues to evolve as new discoveries are made. Each new study contributes additional insight. Each new analysis helps refine understanding. Rather than providing simple answers, sites like the Longyou Caves encourage deeper questions. They invite investigation. They inspire curiosity. They remind us that human history is still being explored. There are still discoveries waiting to be made, still questions waiting to be answered, still knowledge waiting to be uncovered. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the Longyou Caves is not about mystery alone, but about perspective, about humility, and about the recognition that our understanding of the past continues to grow. The story of human civilization is still being written, and places like the Longyou Caves remind us that history may contain more complexity than we often imagine.